Have you ever played chess with your grandpa? No, not your dad or your uncle or your grandma even, but with your grandpa? You don't understand.
Have you ever played chess with your grandpa? Not your dad or your uncle or your grandma even.
Your grandma.
But with your grandpa?
With your grandpa.
You don't understand. Or maybe you do. Maybe it's a universal rule that the game with the agonizing lack of suspense becomes fun when played with a grandpa.
Maybe every kid should play chess with a grandpa.
Every kid should play chess with a grandma.
Chess with their grandpa.
My grandpa lived in Lauderdale.
My grandpa lived in Cambria, California.
It's a tiny town where all the retired people go to.
Coastal town where all the retired people go and relax on the freezing western shore and play checkers at the church every Saturday. My grandpa grew up there actually. He went to Cal Poly and then into the war and then into the Navy. He went to Cal Poly and then into the Navy and then onto the shores of Japan during World War II and then back to Cambria after he retired from the Navy to be the town's handyman. I don't remember when I first learned chess, but I know I learned in that tiny westernish coastal town.
But I know
my grandpa had chess pieces made of ivory. They were red and white, and the king and queen were 3 inches high. Smooth and cool.
And the king and queen were 3
I used to love running my fingers over them as I considered my next move. They had weight to them too, and whenever you set one down, it would make a sound like a clap to signal the changing of the turn.
And when you set them down, they made a sound like a clap to signal the ending of the turn.
The most important one was patience and the value of thinking. I would make my move, and then my grandfather would lean forward in his chair and cross his arms across his chest and then stare at the board and stare and stare and stare and stare and stare.
When I was young, all I could do when this occurred was fidget in my seat.
I'd plan my next move in 30 seconds, and then I'd spend the next 10 minutes staring out the window or at the books on the bookshelves of my grandparents'
looking
house.
at the books on the bookshelves
10
of my
minutes
grandparents'
later,
house.
my grandpa would make his move, and 30 seconds later, I had responded.
He never had.
And then my grandfather would lean forward in his chair, and the game would continue like that.
After many years of losing these games of chess to my grandpa,
very
easily, I discovered that if I spent those 10 minutes thinking up strategies, I could think ahead. It helped my game, but I still never beat my grandpa. I got older, and I began to see my grandpa change. He got deaf, we had to yell, his back hurt, and he started to use a cane.
My bedtime got later.
My bedtime got earlier.
I mostly ignored these changes. The summer after my freshman year in high school, we spent 4 weeks in Cambria with my grandparents. As soon as I arrived, my grandpa and I started planning our first chess game.
About how badly we were going to win. This ritual guaranteed the winner unlimited bragging rights. My grandpa and I played the first chess game of the summer in the dining room, in the late afternoon in the dining room of my grandparents' home, surrounded by dozens of family
in the dining room of my grandparents' house, surrounded by dozens of family pictures.
It went to me.
It went to me. I checkmated my grandpa with my queen and castle.
I was so surprised I forgot to brag.
I was so surprised I forgot to brag. I got home. I curled up in my bed. I cried. I didn't want my grandpa to get old. I didn't want him to leave.
I didn't want him to leave
Cambria. I didn't want him to leave me.
Lauderdale.
I didn't want him to leave me forever.
He went to Harvard, then into the Navy, then onto the shores of Japan during World War II, and then back to Port of Spain when he retired from the Navy to be the town's handyman. I don't remember when I learned to play chess, but I know I learned it. I know that tiny Caribbean town.